Hello, stamping friends. Welcome. It's Friday, February 5th, 2021. I am Robin Armbrecht with Really Robin Stamps, and I am so happy that you are joining me today for my Friday crafting play date. This is episode number 5. I'm going to keep going. Whether you're joining me live or you are watching this on a replay later, thank you so much for taking the time to join me in my stamp room for some stamping fun. So, you know what happened this week? Punxsutawney Phil saw his shadow. So if you understand what that means, technically that means we have 6 more weeks of winter. So I thought it would be kind of fun to do shadow stamping today. So we're going to learn a new stamping technique. You ready to get started? All right, let's do this. All right, let me get my camera set here. Whoops. Boy, I sure make that look easy, don't I? All right, there we go. Let's pull that in a little bit. All right. Thank you, thank you. Hi, Rebecca. Happy Friday. All right, I think that's set. Now, let me make sure I can find my comments so I can see what you guys are saying. Alrighty, so like I said, the groundhog saw his shadow today. The official groundhog, that is. Now, my mom told me that in Milwaukee at the zoo, that groundhog did not see his shadow. So I guess in Wisconsin or in Milwaukee or just at the zoo, they're not going to have 6 more weeks of winter. I wasn't aware that that's how that worked, but I guess that's a thing. So we are going to go ahead though and just go with Phil's shadow seeing, and we're going to do some shadow stamping today. So I've got 3 ways to use this technique with supplies you probably already have at home. It's very, very simple, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So I've got a basic technique, and then a way to step it up, and then I've got a 3D version. So let's get started. I'm going to show you the basic way to do this first. And hold on. Trying to see. Okay. All right. So basically what you need to do this technique is you need ink in 2 different shades that are very similar, so of the same hue. So I'm going to use black, and I'm going to use smoky slate. So it's just kind of like a lighter version. And the basic technique is so very simple. Hey Judy, thanks for joining me today. All right, so the basic technique is that you stamp your image like that. I am using the hummingbird from the Touch of Ink Celebration stamp set. Love this stamp set. Now I'm going to clean my stamp. And now I'm going to ink it in the lighter version of black, which is gray. I am going to hold it right over where I stamped the first image. And with a photopolymer stamp, this is super easy. Without touching it down to the paper, I'm just going to line it up exactly. And then before I stamp it, I'm just going to move it slightly. Just kind of shift it slightly to the side and stamp it in the gray. So now I've got a shadow next to my original stamp, and they're kind of the same hue, so it just kind of gives that illusion of a shadow, right? That's kind of cool. Now, some of us do this without even trying. I don't know if this has happened to you, but like you're holding the block so carefully and you stamp it and then you accidentally, you lift it up and then you drop the block. How many times has that happened to you? That happens to me all the time. So you stamp it and then you accidentally drop the block and you get that shadow whether you wanted it or not. But this is intentional shadow stamping. So that's what that looks like. Now, if you're not comfortable doing that, well, hold on, let me show you a card. So I just took this, I left it just kind of black and white like this, and then I added our beautiful True Love Designer Series paper and just kind of created a black and white card with a little pop of color, and there's your little shadow stamping. Really what this does when you do this technique is it just creates a little bit of movement and then it creates depth with your image. So it's really easy. It works best this way with kind of the 2 shades of ink if you have a outline stamp image. So line art images work really the best for this particular technique because you want to be able to kind of see that outline shadow. All right, so this is just the basic technique. Now let me just show you before I step it up. Here is our dragonfly. And you can see that you can shift your stamp slightly in any direction. You can kind of go backwards, you can go a little bit sideways, however you want it to shift. All right, so that is the basic shadow stamping technique. Now let me just show you a little tip or trick here. I'm going to bring in my Stamparatus. And what I've done is I've created 2 little templates. I just took some of the chipboard that came on on the backing of one of my specialty packs of Designer Series paper. And I created 2 strips that are exactly the same, except one is a 1/16 of an inch larger. So let me show you how this works, because if you want to be really precise and not eyeball it, this would be a good way to do it. So I'm going to put the 1-inch strip and just butt it right up against the edge of my Stamparatus. And then I'm going to add my piece of white here. I'm going to take the hummingbird. Sure he's dried off. Oops, he wasn't dried off at all. Okay. All right, so I would like him to be kind of like right here for my initial stamping. So I'm going to pick him up with the plate. Okay, realign that and make sure it's all butted up against. Then I am going to ink him in the Memento Black, stamp it, like that. All right, so there's my first impression, okay? So now I'm going to take out the 1-inch and I'm going to put in the 1 1/16 inch. I'm going to flip that over because it looks like I got a little wet on there. Okay. And we're going to realign that. So essentially what this does is it just gives you a really, really precise shift if you don't want to eyeball it, right? So if you want to be very precise, this is the way to do it. So now I'm going to stamp or ink the basic gray and stamp it again. And again, just because I shifted with the slightly larger little template here, it shifted it for me. All right, so this is something, if you haven't gotten out your Stamparatus recently, this would be a great technique for you to pull together. And of course, you could make different sizes. If you wanted there to be a bigger shift, you could do 1 inch, 1 1/8, or something like that, 1 inch, 1 1/4, depending on how much you wanted it to shift. This is also great to use the Stamparatus when you're using a stamp set that is not photopolymer, because it's a little bit more difficult to line it up, obviously, if you can't see between the stamp. All right, so let me show you some more ideas here. So you don't have to just do this in black and white. You can do it in color. So I took 2 shades of the same hue. I'm using Rich Razzleberry. Actually, I didn't use 2 shades. I just re-stamped it without re-inking. So essentially, all I did was this. Let's grab another color here. Let's grab Bermuda Bay. We'll put our hummingbird back on the block. Ink him in Bermuda Bay. And then without using a lighter shade, I'm just going to use the 2nd generation by just restamping it. And it ends up being a lot lighter of a color. I think that looks really pretty. It just gives it a little depth. So that's what I did on this card with the Rich Razzleberry. All right, you can also do this technique with solid stamps. I used, what is this one called? I'm not sure. I used this stamp set and I stamped the palm trees and then just shifted them. Here it is, Timeless Tropical. I just stamped it, shifted it over, and stamped it again to create. It's very subtle because I just used the 2nd generation of ink that was on my stamp. Hi, Paula. How are you today? Thank you for joining me, guys. Aren't you glad the sun's out? I mean, it's so cold, but I'm glad the sun is out. Okay. So that's your basic technique. Now let me just show you a couple other samples so you can kind of see some different things that you can do with it. So I used the Forever Fern stamp set, which I know a lot of you have. And again, this one I didn't use the Stamparatus. I just picked up my image and then I plopped it back down and I created a little bit bigger space there. It's about 1/4 of an inch. And so the shadow is a little bit offset a little bit more. But then on this one, I used 2 colors. I used Garden Green and I used Soft Seafoam. So you can kind of see it does look slightly different when you have 2 shades versus just stamping it twice. Isn't that pretty? It's just so simple. I love techniques that you can use with any stamp set that you have. Now, this also looks really amazing if you do this technique with words, with greetings, all right? So let me show you how that would work. I'm gonna take some Real Red and we're gonna take this greeting that is from the Punch Party Hostess set. This one right here, You Make My Heart Happy. And I'm gonna ink it in red, Real Red. And because this is photopolymer, it makes it really easy. So I'm gonna just stamp it, lift it up, shift it slightly over, and stamp it again. And it just creates this beautiful little shadow that just kind of gives it a little something. All right, this set is really fun. It's got all these pieces that coordinate with the punch. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in a heart to punch out so that I can put that on my Valentine's Day cards. So today's question, I need you to comment and I will pick somebody I'll send you a card if I pick your name for commenting. Tell me if you send Valentine's Day cards, yes or no, and if you do, are they done? Have you finished them yet? Because true confessions, I have not finished mine yet. So comment with whether your Valentine's Day cards are finished or whether you send them. All right, so let me show you a couple samples with greetings. So I took this stamp set, Ornate Thanks, because it has these beautiful little chunky sayings. And I just offset it. I just eyeballed it. I didn't use the Stamparatus for that. And look at that fun little shadow that you get. The greetings in this stamp set cracked me up. I wasn't sure how to thank you, so here's a card. I love that. Let me show you another one. On the background of this one, I just stamped the word chocolate. I first did it all in early espresso ink, and then I went back with crumb cake and I stamped it again. And again, I just eyeballed it. I moved it off to the side and stamped it in crumb cake. You are just like chocolate. You make everything better. Love this stamp set. All right, so let me just show you with a greeting and your Stamparatus, okay? So I'm going to use this stamp set that is called You Are Amazing. If you haven't seen this one, you may have overlooked it because I did it first. It's part of this project kit that's on page 7. I guess I can take that off because I bought it now. It goes with this project kit, but it's also separate. So if you didn't want to get pre-made cards, you could just get the stamp set. And these are some great birthday greetings. So I went ahead and purchased that, and I just got it. So I have an idea here for using multiple greetings, especially when you have a stamp set like this where you've got all of these greetings that go together. So I'm going to take 3 of the greetings. And then I'm going to take a long piece of Whisper White, Basic White, and put that with my 1-inch template there. And then I'm just going to put these all on here at one time. So, you are amazing. Hip, hip, hooray. 3 cheers for you. Congrats. Who wouldn't want to get that card? All right, then I'm going to pick them all up. Like that. And I actually, whoops, they were a little dirty, weren't they? I'm going to take this out because I don't need, you only need this little foam mat if you're doing photopolymer. And since these are clear mount, I don't need those. All right, so what I'm going to do is use Stampin' Spots to ink this up since I want 3 different colors. I kind of went with the theme that I love when I just pick a blue, kind of a red, and a green. And so I went with kind of odd versions of those. I did Bermuda Bay, Blackberry Bliss, and Misty Moonlight. So I'm going to just use these because it makes it really easy to individually ink. So I'm going to do Rich Razzleberry on that greeting, and then I'm going to do Bermuda Bay on this middle greeting. And then Misty Moonlight. Let me turn it this way on this one. All right, Judy says she does make Valentines, and yes, they are finished. Congratulations, you are awesome. Paula said her 3 cards are finished and they are ready to be mailed. That is awesome too. All right, so I inked those in 3 different colors. Now I'm going to press that. So 3 in 1, boom. All right, so that one didn't stamp. So let me just re-ink it, and all that means is I really have it really close to the edge. So let me do a better job pressing that. It's easier if you don't get it right. There we go. Right up to this edge, you have to press a little harder. All right, so now I'm going to take this one out. I'm going to put the 1 and the 16th in there. Put that back in there. take my magnet. There we go. Now without re-inking, I'm just going to use the second generation, the ink that's left on there. I'm going to stamp it again. I love this. This is so cool. And let me hold it up so you can see it. And it just puts a perfect little shadow behind next to those greetings. Whoops, sorry, that's really close. All right, so I put this together with some designer series paper. Let me clean these off real quickly. We'll put those away. All right, so here's what my card looks like. I just took some of the designer series paper that coordinates with each color in this plaid design. And I put Rich Razzleberry, Bermuda Bay, and I actually used Night of Navy down there. So that would be, this would be a great card for, it could be, you know, it could be a birthday card, but it could just be for any kind of celebration. So that is what you can do with greetings, and it's so much fun. You guys have to try this. All right, so that is the basic shadow stamping technique. I am going to step it up now. We're going to add a little bit of embossing to this technique. So let me grab my next thing. All right. Hello, Lisa. Nice to see you. I mean, not see you, but see your name and know that you're watching. I appreciate it. All right, so now we're going to step it up a little bit, and we are going to do some embossing. So this is another version of this technique. So for this technique, you need your black ink pad, and then you need a Versamark, and then you need white embossing powder. I'm also going to add in some crumb cake. So this time I'm going to use the butterfly from the Touch of Ink stamp set because I just love him. Hello, Kim. Thanks for watching. All right, so I'm going to stamp the butterfly in black first. So what this version of the stepping up technique is going to just kind of create a more vivid shadow that's a little bit more abstract. All right. So now that we stamped in black, we're going to go ahead and emboss the image again, or stamp it and emboss it in white. So let me show you how, well, let me put the greeting on here first. Okay. All right, so we want to make sure that that black ink is dry so that doesn't pick up any of the white powder. So I'm going to just hit it with the heat tool really, really quickly to dry it. All right, now we're going to take the Versamark ink and I'm going to just eyeball it. So I'm going to, again, basic technique, line it up exactly where I stamped it the first time, and then I'm just going to move it slightly off and restamp it. Now you can't see it because this is clear ink, so let me put the white embossing powder on it like that, and then we're going to heat set that. So bear with me. So with heat embossing, you just have to wait till the powder starts to melt. It'll turn shiny. So it's starting to turn. It's best to hold your heat tool at about a 45-degree angle so the heat shoots across the paper. All right. So you can kind of see where the white is, but now we're going to bring in our blending brushes and this crumb cake ink, and we're going to make the whole thing pop. So this is a little bit like a shadow technique and emboss resist as well. All right, so with the new blending brushes, you want to kind of get them inky, but then tap off the extra before you add it to your card. And so we're going to just start swirling across and getting that ink burnished into the paper. You can make this as light or as dark as you want, but you see how the image kind of pops up as you get that ink in there. I'm going to make it nice and dark right where the butterfly is. All right, Rebecca, I am with you in those Valentine's Day cards. I have a couple made, but they're not all the way done, but they will be. In fact, when I'm watching the Super Bowl on Sunday, my intention is to be assembling my Valentine's Day cards so I can get those in the mail. All right, isn't that pretty? It just looks very vintagey. So you can keep going with this and make this as dark or as light as you want, but I think that's absolutely gorgeous. So I'm going to leave it at that. Now let me show you just another little trick I love to do, especially when I kind of have an image that's just like hanging out in midair. I mean, it's fine, right? It looks fine. It's totally fine. But sometimes if you just kind of give it a little bit of a background, that just adds a little something to it. So I'm just going to take some ink. I squeezed my ink pad when it was closed so I could get some of the ink onto the tray. And then I'm going to take my water painter, but you could just use a regular paintbrush. And I'm going to just put some of the water into the ink here and make it really watery, like that. And then what I'm going to do is just splatter it right onto that image. And because it's water, even though it has a little bit of the crumb cake mixed into it, it's going to kind of pull the ink off of the cardstock, and it's going to end up looking a little bit lighter when it actually dries. So let me see if I can get a couple more on there, bigger ones. There we go. All right, again, you can do that with a paintbrush. You can do that with an old toothbrush if you pick up your water that way. So let's let that dry for a second, and we're gonna put the rest of the card together. So I decided I wanted a nice rich card, so I'm using Cherry Cobbler as the card base. And then I thought it would be really pretty to add in some of this beautiful specialty acetate paper that is part of the art gallery suite. Let me just show you what that looks like in the catalog so you know what I'm talking about. It is called Golden Garden Designer Specialty Acetate Paper. You get 3 sheets for $9. 2 of those sheets coordinate totally with the paper, the designer series paper, like this one here. I'm using this one, and then there's this pretty floral design. This is really cool because the opposite side is silver, so you can use it as silver or you can use it as gold. So I'm going to use the gold side today, and the one thing you need to remember if you get this is that there's a protective film on this so it doesn't get scratched. So but leave it on there, but then when you're ready to put it, you cut it and you're ready to put it on your card, you want to peel that off. All right, because it's clear, any adhesive that I put on there is going to show. So I only want to put adhesive in the middle. So I'm going to do that just to hold it down like that. And then I thought it would be really fun to add some more gold. And so I got out this gold twine, which is part of the Forever Greenery combo pack of it's a combo ribbon pack. I love this particular gold twine because it unravels really easily. There's about 6 or 8 strands there. So you can like figure out what size piece you want and then pull it apart really easily. So I've already pulled one apart, and then you just get these beautiful little wispies. So I'm gonna just kind of layer this behind my focal point. Like that, and just kind of spread it out so that I know it'll show when I put the focal point on. Like that. Let's just kind of eyeball that. All right, so the best way to stick this down is to just kind of put a couple dimensionals here or there, kind of under, and then it'll kind of keep it held on. All right, so you can kind of see you got some water spots here. I think that looks really pretty. The more water you use, the whiter the spots become. So we'll put that on black and then pop him up. All right, so I asked you to comment earlier if you were sending out Valentine's Day cards, and if yours were ready to go. I will draw a name from everybody who comments on that question, and then I will send you one of my cards from the Friday Crafting Playdates. So we're just gonna whoops, let's go ahead and take the sticky off of those. All right, I think that's really pretty. Just kind of looks elegant. Let's just add a little more gold. We'll pull the gold from the back all the way to the front by just adding some embellishments that are gold. These are gold glitter enamel dots, and we'll just stick a couple on there. Like that. And then that kind of brings all of the colors together. All right. What do you think about that? So again, this is the stepping it up shadow stamping technique. It's a little more less subtle. It's kind of more vivid, and it allows you to do just some embossing and some burnishing. Here is another sample, and I used the leaf from this Positive Thoughts stamp set, and I did the exact same technique, but I used just jade as my color. So that is the stepping up technique. All right, I've got one more I promised to show you. And this shadow stamping technique is called 3D. And you'll see why in just a minute here. All right, let me grab my next supplies. For this one, this part of the technique, you're going to need a white craft pad. And this technique does work best if you use some kind of stamp positioning tool. If you don't have the Stamparatus, you can sure use the Stamp-A-Majig. If you had that tool, they don't sell it anymore because now they have this one, but a lot of you have that Stamp-A-Majig tool. You can use that. Let's see, we're going to do photopolymer, so we're going to need to bring this mat back in so it lifts up the base of the Stamparatus. All right, I'm going to use the 1-inch first. Now this technique I think works best if you have colored cardstock. So I actually cut out one of these ornate frames, and that's what I'm going to stamp the image on. So let's get that secure. And even though it's, I can still get it really straight up against this template. So even though it's kind of decorative, it still works. Now for this card, I'm going to use this image from the Art Gallery stamp set. So I picked out that flower image, and I'm going to put that kind of right there on the front of the card, or the front of the focal point. So I'm going to pick that up, reposition if that wiggled. So this is a little bit different, this 3D technique, in that you stamp tone on tone first. So this is Petal Pink cardstock, and we're going to ink in Petal Pink. So you want it tone on tone, and so the shadow is going to be created by the tone on tone piece. So we stamp that first. Pull that up, so now I've got tone on tone. I'm going to just clean off the stamp. And now you need to use your Whisper White. And you want to make sure your pad's really juicy. So if you need to re-ink it, definitely do it before you try this technique, because you want as much of that ink on your image as possible. So I'm just making sure that is inky. All right, now we're going to move this over, use our 1 16th template. Reposition that. And now we're going to stamp it with the Whisper White craft ink. Isn't that pretty? So what this does, because it's like light on top and dark on the bottom, it makes it pop. It looks like it's embossed on there. I think that's so beautiful. All right, let me quick clean this off before that white craft ink dries, and then we'll put this card together. We'll finish it. Okay, we are going to use Calypso Coral as our base, and then I'm going to use one of the pieces of Designer Series paper from the Fine Art Floral Suite. All right, and then we're going to pop this guy up. Like that. Isn't that frame beautiful? If you were part of my my free class last month, in the video I showed you all of these ornate layer dies that create all these beautiful frames. So this is the one that I used today. This is the one that was part of your class kit. So these are in the annual catalog. I think that is so pretty. Of course we need a greeting. So let's use one of the greetings, many greetings that come in this stamp set. I'm going to make it a birthday card. So I'm going to use a happy birthday. So do you remember a couple weeks ago we did the stamping down the middle technique, the 4-in-1 cards, and I told you to save all of those beautiful scraps. And so I just found this little tin, and every time I cut off a 1/2 inch or a 3/4 or a 1 inch and I have that strip left over, I'm just going to keep them in here so that I can grab them, because all of those sizes coordinate with these label punches that we now have 3 different ones. And so you're already prepared for the 3 different sizes that these punches create. So this one is the lovely labels. So I'm going to take one of my strips and I'm going to use Calypso Coral. Again, you want to like pull the colors in the card together. I'm going to stamp that greeting, and then I'm going to use this side here and punch. So now I've got the greeting on a little strip, and we're going to just put that across here and make it even with the edge of the card. Just going to use my scissors to do that. And we'll pop that up. going to use the mini dimensionals because it's a tiny little strip. Like that. And then let's add a little bit of bling to it. These are the elegant faceted gems. There's just there's clear, and then there's glitter, and then there's these pretty light pink ones. So let's use those, and we'll put that right there. So pretty. So this technique is called 3D shadow stamping. Okay, so now you have 3 ways that you can do shadow stamping. Here is another sample. This one's using the Pretty Perennials stamp set. I did the same technique, stamped first in the Flirty Flamingo, which is the paper color, and then did the Whisper White on top. All right, which one was your favorite? I don't know. I'm pretty excited about all of these cards, to be honest, but I really like using the greetings for this technique. That makes me really happy. I am doing, again, in February, a free card class with a $50 order. So if you order during February and you use my hostess code and you spend at least $50, you get a free celebration item, and then you get a free card class from me that I will bring to you. And so that is my special for February. I hope you enjoyed the shadow stamping today. Leave me a comment about your Valentine's. I will draw a name and send somebody a card. And I just thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.